Good morning or good afternoon, depending on which side of the coast you're on. I hope you're having an excellent week, Success Group. I want to welcome Daniel Cross. He is the Director of Business Development for First.io. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome to another Tuesday. This Tuesday, we're doing a product pairing with Ian and Daniel. Daniel, it's very nice of you to join us. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to kick right off with, I'd like to welcome Daniel and let him talk about what they do and what his role is with the business. And then we'll jump into any questions. If you guys are interested, have any other questions, comment below and we will answer your questions live.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, I work with, as she said, I work with a company called Verse. Verse, I'll give you like a quick, where did Verse come from? Because that helps to understand what Verse does now. So we started about 8 years ago. Gosh, is it almost 9 years ago now? The company was a lead generation company for real estate agents. So we owned a referral network. We were a HomeLight before HomeLight was HomeLight, right? So we generated leads through a couple domains that we owned, and then we would pass them out to agents across the country, and they would agree to pay us a referral fee when they close the deal. And that's a great business model. HomeLight does a great job of it. Zillow has something similar set up. There's a lot of different models, a lot of companies using that model now, but they all figured out the same thing we figured out, which was when we would talk to the lead or follow up with the lead a couple of days later to find out, do you like this agent? Is everything going well? They would frequently say, nobody reached out to me, or I don't know, nobody called me, or yeah, I got a voicemail, but I don't know, I still want to see the home. And then we'd call the agent and they'd say, yeah, they didn't respond. I don't know, can I have another lead? Kind of. And so we were thinking, well, this isn't working for us because we weren't making money until they were actually closing deals. So rather than kind of chasing the agents and chasing the leads, we decided to start incubating the leads. We built a concierge team. We built a platform for the concierge team to work from, and we started calling the leads before we passed them to the agent. So we would be the ones reaching out. We would do the follow-up. We would text. We would call, and then we would pass it to the agent once the agent was once we had learned that the lead was ready, right? And then the agents were super stoked about that because now they didn't have to chase leads, and the lead had a better customer experience because they were getting quick response times and someone was helping them, and we were doing better because we were closing more deals. So that quickly morphed into the agents asking us if they could send us their other leads because they loved this appointment thing. They loved getting leads passed to them that were ready. So they said, hey, can we send you our Zillow leads? Can we send you our Realtor.com leads? And we said, well, I guess we have a team here. Sure. And that became the business that exploded. That's what Verse became. At the time, we were called Agentology. And in 2018, we sold off that referral network piece of what we do to a company called Boomtown to focus completely on being a concierge rather than having any piece in the lead gen part of the business. And one of the things that we learned over all these years of doing this was that a lot of call centers were call, and people weren't setting up their businesses to be responsive to text, right? Companies were stuck in kind of a model where a lead would come in, and God, it's still happening. We test companies all the time, where a lead would come in and they would just call it, and then they would call it 7 times, but that didn't pay attention to the user experience, which is most times you fill out a form, you don't want to call, right? You just kind of want more information, or you want to talk to someone because you have two questions, or you do want to call, but not right now. And the barrage of calls that come in, trust me, I tested Realtor.com yesterday, and they bought a company called OpCity, which does something similar to what we did, but only in the real estate world. And I got literally 7 calls in 3 minutes, and nobody was utilizing two-way text. So what Verse does, and what we specialized in, and what we kind of grabbed onto in 2018 was to build out the conversational AI piece of what we do. So as we had more conversations and more leads were getting sent to us from mortgage companies, from solar companies, home services companies, insurance, kind of everywhere, we started getting, obviously there are patterns, right, in the way that people respond, and we started coding that and building the AI and the machine learning into our cadences, so that now when a lead comes in, we reach out to them, we offer a text conversation or a call. If they want to call, we call them, and then we live transfer them to the sales team. if they want to, if the lead wants to have a text conversation, we have a text conversation with them. But a lot of the front end part of the conversation can be handled by AI, but not all of them can be handled by AI. And when someone actually has a real human response because they think, they're talking to a real human, AI is not good at that, right? So if you say, hey, do you want to call or do you want to text? And they say text, well, the AI knows what to do with that. But if they say, I'm picking my kids up from school right now, I'm not available to talk, but I can talk after 5. The AI might not understand that kind of complicated sentence. And in that case, in our software, when the AI doesn't know what to do and the AI panics, it gets sent to a human jumps in, they read the previous message and go, oh, silly AI. What they meant was they can't talk right now, they want to talk after 5, and then they send the correct response next, ultimately ending in a live transfer or an appointment set for the sales team. So that's Verse in a nutshell. Sorry, was that too long?
Nope.
No, I think that's. Oh, did we lose him?
I think so. Where did he go?
No, he talked and then he
gave us his sales pitch. He dropped the mic. He said, "Did we get it?" And then he left. Well, we'll give him a minute. I'm sure he'll hop back on here. He got on here successfully this morning. Here he comes.
There he is.
There he is. Hey there. Welcome back.
We lost him again.
Uh-oh.
Something's not working. Well, while he's figuring that out, what I like about Verse specifically, like he said, is it has the option between the texting and the calling, which I think is huge. Simply, because like you always talk about, and Ryan talks about, like we don't know where they're going to be at any given day. That multiple approaches, ensuring that they get there. Oh, he joined us back. Is really what I like. Everything good, Daniel?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. It just my box disappeared. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's so. So you could hear me talking about both the texting and the calling, which I really like. So, as far as the people in a person's database, do you guys have different messaging, different programs or products as to who you're reaching out to and when? So what I mean by that is, okay, this guy just sold 6 months ago, but you don't want him to forget about him. Do they get a long-term nurture? And do some people get an immediate qualification? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing we realized, because we thought speed to lead is the thing, and this is what we're selling. Verse is here so that your sales team can't be there 24/7. So Verse is there when someone fills out a form at 8 o'clock at night, because we're 24/7, so we're on all the time. So when someone fills out a form at 8 o'clock at night, your sales team's not going to be there. And if it's Friday, they're not going to get a call till Monday, and Verse can help you with that. That's what we thought everyone wanted. And that is the primary use case for Verse. But as common sense would dictate, probably when people come to Verse, when they're coming to us to have us help with their lead engagement problem, it means they have a lot of pain from like something wasn't working already. So they have a database of leads where they're, that they were failing with, or that they weren't engaging quick enough, or that didn't convert. So people do, and past customers, right? So the other use case with Verse that we had to adapt to was everybody who's coming to us to try and sign up for Verse is nobody's new. Like they've all been generating leads. They have databases, and they also hate calling through their databases, and they see a task and it makes them feel bad when they don't do it. And so the other use case for Verse is that people upload database leads to us, and they also put so the answer to your question is we have campaigns for all different types of triggers. So Verse can be triggered at any time. We're responding to a trigger whenever Verse is reaching out. So either the trigger is a new lead form's been filled out, and we have a certain campaign for that. And it always obviously depends on the vertical. So we're working in home services and solar and mortgage and real estate and all these different places, medical devices, clinics, all these different things. So the campaign, first of all, when a customer onboards with Verse, they tell us what their use cases are. And we have copywriting editors who say, oh, well, we have that use case already. Here's what we have that works for that. Or we say, well, we don't have anything that's exactly like that, but we have something similar to that, and we'll tweak it and put it together for them. But yeah, the answer to your question is some people are saying 6 months, 6 months after a sale, they don't want us to forget about them, or excuse me, we don't want them to forget about us. And so we'll reach out with whatever the offer is, whatever the update is. It's dynamic, so it can change. If rates have gone up, for example, or rates have gone down, we can respond to that. So yeah, there's a million different ways that we can use to, basically what we're trying to do is have more conversations, right? The goal of Verse is to create more conversations with leads and past customer bases.
And move them through the pipeline with those conversations. So exactly. The agent doesn't have to constantly follow up with 10,000 people all at one time. That's where AI comes in. That's where Verse comes in. How good's the AI? Can it fool you? Yeah, well, it depends.
So one of the key things, which is really interesting, because I look through conversations all the time, when you get a text, when you fill out a form right now, if you go to some site and fill out a form, you'll have an idea whether that's a bot or not based on what they're offering or what they're asking, right? So obviously, if it's a press 1, press 2 situation, it's not a real person. Sure. And so you don't try to talk, and we're getting better at this, right? Like the younger generations are interacting with AI more than the older ones are. The older ones are like the young people are saying they're okay with kind of doing a certain amount of AI because they know they'll get to somewhere. But when what we're doing is asking if they're open to chatting right now or if they want to get on a call, which makes them respond to us like we're humans, right?
Sure.
And we are. So if the offer, the first text that goes out sounds automated and it sounds like it's a bot, they'll interact with it like a bot or ignore it. They're going to read it, but they're going to ignore it. The real key there is to create a conversation and to ask questions. So, are you available to chat right now? And they say, yeah. If the next question says sounds great, and the question sounds organic, and there's multiple variations of answers, then they start to talk to you like you're a real person. And a lot of times they will ask, is it a bot? Are you a bot?
Sure.
And in that case, a human jumps in and says, or the bot takes over and says, because they've been asked, are you a bot? So the bot will respond with a bot saying, of course I'm not a bot. How far can that go is kind of scary, right? Like it can go back and forth. But yeah, if you were to log into one of the companies that we work with and fill out a form, you would be under the impression you're talking with a person because you are.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head with asking the right questions, as well as giving the appearance, like, even if I know it's a bot, I assume, truth be told, like when I go to like lead captures and media, I assume it's a bot just because, I just assume it is because that's what I would do. I would have it as a bot. But if it talks to me like a person, I like that. I like being able to say what I want, and it can at least pick up some types of keywords. And if it doesn't, then someone answers it within a couple minutes, within a couple of seconds, and they're right there. Now, is there anything new in the works for Verse? We always like to ask that. Is there any type of new endeavors you guys are looking to do, or new types of products you're hoping to offer?
Yeah, we have something launching in Q1 that's pretty exciting, which is right now there are, like text 123 to this number.
Yep.
That's kind of interesting. That will take you into a bot experience. 99% of the time, when you text whatever, it's going to send you back some form and it's going to walk you through kind of an automation process. We're launching a text this number that rather than call this number, so billboards, advertising, web pages, landing pages that have calls to action for calling this number. We think there's going to be a higher chance that people would text the number rather than call the number. And we also want to give them that option. So you could have two, call this number or text this number. And that will connect directly to Verse, so that when a new customer wants, rather than filling out a form, that can be the lead capture, right? It can be text this number, and then Verse jumps in and has a full conversation with them, a qualifying conversation. And then at the end can either live transfer the call because it turns into a call, or book an appointment for them. So that's kind of cool. And that can be built into nurture campaigns. So if you guys are, if there's lead scoring or something happens within, there's some data enrichment that tells you that this person's ready for something, that can be a trigger to send them an email that has the text attached to it that says text this number, along with the text going out, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, if only there was a product that scored leads based on propensity to move.
Yeah.
Based on, oh, have you guys heard of them? Revaluate? Yeah.
Oh,
so
is that what you guys?
Perfect. Yeah. So we do a couple things. Mostly we just make stuff on Facebook. But sometimes we like to provide insights on leads. I think and this leads into that, it was a question I had, and it kind of leads into that, which is, do you guys integrate with other tools? Do you have an app? Do you prefer to use one or the other? What does that look like?
Yeah, we're kind of forced to integrate with everything, right?
Yep.
So whether we like it or not, but we have a Zapier app that makes it easy for most companies to do what they need to do. We have APIs. We can listen to webhooks. We integrate with every CRM. There's some that have better or more built out Zapier applications, so that they, the extent of what we can do. Like the easiest one would be like all the notes, because the concierge is going to put all the, let's say they have a text conversation with 3 pieces of key information they want to grab. Everything, when a lead's qualified, it creates a summary, and the summary can just go into the notes, and it can change statuses within the CRM. But it can go as deep as dispositioning the lead into it, like based on responses, dispositioning the lead into a new status within a CRM that launches a different kind of email and nurture campaign. So, as an example, let's say a real estate lead says they are interested in buying, but after talking with us, they want to get pre-approved first, and they're interested in the next 3 to 6 months, right? That might change. That might affect what would happen in a CRM. That might cause an email notification to go out to their borrower partner or their lender partner, and that might also put them onto a track where they tell them about trends that are happening in the content can be kind of dynamic, right, based on what their responses are, and we can go that deep where we're feeding back information to the CRM that would change the way that they're reaching out.
And I hear you can be triggered from the CRM as well, like the Zaps can be triggered from it.
That's typically where we're getting triggered from, because so we can connect directly to lead sources, but we also it makes more sense for us to connect to the CRM because we're probably talking back to the CRM. So CRM triggers to Verse does our job, and then we put everything back into the CRM.
So if someone had a list of very likely movers being tagged in their database, we could use that as a trigger to send over to Verse and nurture those, or not even just very likely movers, like you said. You guys, and we've been seeing this a lot. I think Katrina and Ryan have been talking about this. Like the very likely movers we provide are still, those are the cream of the crop, the most likely to move. But now we're seeing engaged movers as people who, we're not saying they're, the same level as very likely, but they shouldn't be ignored. These are people who are showing some of the signs of moving. They're likely to move, in the next, let's say, 12 months instead of 6, right? They're looking more long-term, and you guys have the content, right, for long-term nurturing and the long-term conversations. Do you have any stories of like where you guys talked to someone for like 2 years and then they finally moved forward and it was because of you guys? Like, do you have any of those cool stories?
Well, no, I mean, 2 years would be a pretty long time.
2 years is a long time.
It's probably, I mean, somewhere, but it's more like, so if you think about it, like you're going to want them on a content drip, right? It's just like any other kind of sales process. Like you want them to keep learning and trusting you. You want to build, you want to build the relationship. But what Verse is allowing you to do is to automate the sparking of a conversation now. And so we don't want it to be one way, right?
Sure.
There's a part of it that needs to be one way. That's the content part where you're providing them value and giving them information. But then the other thing that you want to do, I mean, what you're racing to do, especially in real estate, mortgage, and things in places where there's high competition, is to be is to have that initial conversation so that they know who you are and they think they have a guy, or they have their person who I don't need to talk to an agent. I have my agent. You need to get that conversation had. And so what we're doing is helping facilitate that initial conversation where they say, we're not moving for 2 years, or we're not moving for next year, but I'm your guy. So if you have questions, if you're
Sure.
this neighborhood. So, in the beginning, people would come to us, especially in real estate, they would say, don't send me leads that aren't moving in the next 6 months. Don't send me leads that haven't been pre-approved. They're setting out their qualification questions. And we would advise them, don't do that. Like, talk to anybody who wants to talk to you, and add some value to them in the beginning part of this stage, and then keep following up with them. So, to answer the question from a like a technical standpoint, when Verse has our initial engagement and we do when we introduce the let's say the agent in real estate, when we're making that connection, either live transfer or the appointment, we're that now it's on the agent to have the conversation. That's kind of where we cut our. So we're not nurturing. It's why we don't nurture for 2 years and then pass it.
Sure.
We're trying to get the agent connected as soon as possible because we don't know about your area. That guy does, or that lady does.
Absolutely.
So it's really hard for us to continue to add value via text over 2 years, but ideally what we can do is get them to respond to us, get them to have a conversation, and then get them to the professionals who are going to add the value.
So what happens with those leads that don't convert?
The over, like, let's say it reaches the end of a cadence, let's say. There's debate about whether, how long you're allowed to reach out to someone, from the TCPA standpoint, like, and so there are companies that are more conservative than others, but let's say it's reached the end of 6 months and we haven't converted them. We'll unqualify them due to being unresponsive. That's typically the process. It's flexible, so it's kind of whatever you want. If you'd like that, if you'd like that to continue, or you'd like that to move into some other stage, it's possible. But the typical answer is once we reach the end of our cadence, then we unqualify. I
just closed on my first home. What was that? 2 months ago now.
Congrats.
And thank you. Yes, thank you. And I went with a lender. I had two that were recommended to me. And the first came highly recommended, super awesome. I reached out about a year ahead of time because I wanted to get my ducks in a row, figure out, what should I do with my credit? What should I do, etc. And this agent this LO heard a year from now, and he disappeared. I mean, completely disappeared. Didn't say anything. The other guy reached out to us. He was, only had a couple transactions under his belt. But he followed up every month, every couple weeks, every month at the beginning, and then started following up every week, just kind of saying, here's some helpful tips for building your credit. Here's some helpful tips for purchasing new furniture for your home. Have any questions about this? Even if you're not ready now, I'll answer questions. We went with him because he followed up with us and kept us in the loop. We always tell people when they reach out, if they say no, it doesn't mean never. It just means not now. It means maybe not today. It's not, you hit that on the head too when you said you strongly advise people against the no one who isn't moving in the next 6 months, and because you're cheating yourself out of really good leads, really good opportunities. I can't name how many times I've went towards, and not just for real estate, but for anything where I've got like an estimate or got information, and while I didn't need it right away, I went and referred them to somebody because they were helpful. They gave me the info I needed. And that's all it is. It's having conversations, building that rapport. And I think that Verse is really great, like you said, for getting those conversations started and for getting them moving. One final question for you. So we have a wide variety of customers. We're talking the individual agent with 1,000 contacts to entire teams with hundreds of thousands of contacts. Does Verse specialize on smaller databases? Can you go to larger? Is there like a middle ground? What does that look like?
Yeah, you need you need. We mostly focus on larger. We partly from a business model perspective. If you've got like 300 people in your database, like it's not like we're gonna stop working together in 6 months, or whatever it is. Like
all those, yeah.
We can only chew on that grass for so much time.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you'd want to have in the thousands, right, to use Verse, and there'd be different campaigns for different types. And again, you could build in a lot of what people are doing is they're saying we need some help with live leads. At the very least, we need after hours and weekends, right? Because you've got, especially with companies that do larger volume, we can't, they can't be on all the time, and they're probably missing stuff that's coming in after hours, right? So, okay, we'll let Verse take over nights and weekends. When someone can't, someone doesn't come in, if you want to keep Verse on, you can turn us on and turn us off at any time from, like time of day. You can set timers for us. And every month, let's give them a piece of the database that, to keep it kind of flowing, at a certain level, or any trigger from the database that where some data enrichment has been added, and it means they're going to be likely moving. Let's put them on a verse trip. So usually there's a combination of both some element of live lead response and age lead response.
One thing I thought of while you were saying that, then I promise I'm done asking questions. So one thing I thought of was, let's say, you have a lot of users in a major metro, like San Jose. Do you ever run out of numbers for people texting, or is that never? I mean, I'm sure if there's a theoretical issue, and we've talked about theoreticals in our side of the business as well. But is there any actual concern of running out of numbers, or can as many agents or as many people get involved with it?
I think we did run out of numbers in Alaska.
Oh, really?
That sounds.
There's got to be like 6 numbers. There can't be very many. There can't be very many.
That's almost as bad as Maine. I mean, that's
if I remember correctly, I think they only have one area code.
That's probably correct.
For the whole state?
I think so. I might be wrong, but
you're right. I'm looking right at it. 907.
I remember onboarding a customer, and we had to get in touch with the phone number provider. We were working through Twilio. Wow. We had to call Twilio and they gave us one, but I think you have to call the other guy and say, hey, can we have this? I think it's Alaska. I think you walk over there and you just you ask them.
Hop, skip, and a jump. Nope, it's one area code.
Yeah. So the answer is yes, but that was years ago. That was like 3 years ago that happened, but that's never happened since. So no.
Revaluate has a massive Alaskan following.
Well, it's an interesting question though, because the other what I thought you were going to ask is, when you have a bunch of the same agents in one metro, do they ever compete? Right? Like,
and I thought of that while I was saying. I was like, "Ooh, I wonder." No, I was going to ask it, even though I said I was done.
And they do, and if a lead is in the system and it comes from you, right, and then another lead comes in and it's from someone else, that someone else has the same lead, like you put your information in 2 places, let's say, and both of them are using Verse, you'll have a similar experience, but it won't be exactly the same. We even change up for the same person, especially when there's high volume. You'll get kicked off of servers if you are blasting the same message again and again and again, right? Sure. So we actually do have to configure 5 different types of greetings so that we're not sending the same greeting every time or sending the same text messages every time. So you'll probably have a similar experience, but not exactly the same.
Sure.
Are anti-spam and regulations quite a challenge for what you guys do?
No. Well, yeah, I guess there's a question of so leads that you send to Verse should be TCPA compliant, meaning they have to have opted in. You can't just text random people. We would get a lot of agents in the beginning would just go, hey, I got this red X list. I got a list of a circle prospecting list of everyone who lives within a mile of this area, and I don't want to call them, so I'm going to upload them to you guys. And you're like, you can't do that. I mean, you can, and if one of them sues you, it's just a lot of money. So you could take the risk, and there's probably people out there doing it right now. I've received texts without filling out forms, and
Yep, every day.
So you can reach out. I mean, you could send a legal notice to those people. They'll probably stop sending you texts pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the leads should be opted in for text. There's language that you can steal. Probably you could copy paste whatever Zillow says or whatever. I'm not saying you do that. I'm not a lawyer, but But you do want to make sure whoever you're working with on the lead capture side is putting some language in there that gives you the ability to text. You can text past customers for a certain amount of time, so you're clear there. Sure. So if you've worked with them in the past, ostensibly you can reach out to them. But no, we don't. We have to stay on top of being compliant. There are we do have to be concerned about it, but we have a team doing that. So
sure, awesome. Katrina, any other questions you have?
David, or I just wanted to know, do you have any contact information you'd like me to share out with the audience?
Sure. Yeah, dcross@verse.io is my email. So you can email me there. I can, if you're interested in a demo, I can connect you with the account executive team, and we'll get you we'll get a demo for you. I'm active on LinkedIn. If you want to come connect with me there, you just look for Verse and look for me. Yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Do you have any questions for us before we go?
You guys are awesome. How do you become such great hosts?
Year of hosting.
Repetition. I mean, at the beginning we were like, yeah, Facebook, this is gonna be so awesome, doing clubhouses and stuff. And when you first start, sometimes no one watches, and you have to push through and you keep making it, and you keep making the content. Even if they don't watch it today, they'll watch it next week. That was the coolest thing, having some of our users come to us and say, I don't catch them live, but I always listen to them on the way to work when the next day, I do hear them just later. So it is awesome.
Yeah, it's one of I went to a conference in 2019 or something, and there was somebody who was talking about LinkedIn there, and they said you should post on LinkedIn because it's a place where you can go be seen, where it's harder to be seen on other platforms. You can get a lot more. And they said in the beginning you're going to post and you're going to get 12 views. On LinkedIn, that's really, really low, right? That's just it's showing up in someone's feed. It's probably your mom and the guy you share an office with.
Your sister, yep.
Yeah, and then eventually, but if you keep going, you'll there's an effect there, and I'm sure you guys are experiencing that now too. But I certainly have on LinkedIn too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. You're welcome here anytime. Awesome. If you'd like to join our Facebook group, you're welcome to do that too, so you can answer any questions that might pop up. Guys, comment below if you have any questions for him. We'd love to help you connect with him. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back next week. Chris will be joining us again next week with another tip from our CEO. We will see you next Tuesday. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.